Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Dr. Velasquez, Health Officer for Spokane County, and today I'm joined by Joe Ader, who is the CEO of Family Promise of Spokane, our organization that probably you've heard about, but you may or may not know a lot about it. So thank you for joining us today. And perhaps
Thank
the
you.
first thing we can do is tell the community what is Family Promise of Spokane.
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me
Sure.
here. Yes, Family Promise, we work to prevent and end homelessness for families with children in Spokane County.
Okay.
So anybody that's caring for a minor child or who is pregnant that's at risk of or experiencing homelessness in Spokane County, that's the group that we work with. And we're actually a national leader in rehousing and stabilizing families.
Wonderful. So when we talk about families, I think a lot of people think when you say homelessness, they think about roof over your head, but it goes way beyond that. We
Yes.
do know that there are some impacts on mental and physical health. Can you tell us a little bit how helping people with stable housing helps either physical or mental health?
Sure. There's all kinds of crossovers between homelessness and health issues. We see that all the time, but also in children, it adds because you have ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Homelessness is one of those, and housing instability. But when you combine that with the stress of being in poverty and childhoods where you're growing up with this type of environment, our kids are far more at risk of major issues, health-related and mental health-related, growing up. So kids who have experienced homelessness are 4 times more likely to be addicted to a controlled substance.
Okay.
They are 7 times more likely to attempt suicide in their lifetime. And they are also the most likely future street homeless. And so therefore have a lifespan that is shorter than the average resident in our community. In fact, the Our Girls study showed that women in particular who had experienced poverty or housing issues had almost a 15-year shorter lifespan than those that hadn't. So,
Well, those are some staggering numbers, and I was going to ask you how those stable housing impact developmental years of a child. And I think you've answered the question with what happens if we don't.
correct.
So any other areas that are specific to children, particularly those that are growing up, that you can think of?
Sure. I think one of those is just brain development.
There you go.
Right. So when you are in a fight or flight mode, you're in a stress mode, you're trying to survive, and housing is really, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, shelter is right there at the bottom, right? It's one of the most basic things. Really, housing is a human right. It's also healthcare. To be in housing. And so when you don't have that, you're in a fight or flight mode. You're constantly stressed, which affects brain development. And so that increases anxiety levels, stress levels, which then feed into stress-related illnesses and things like that. And so when you look at the socioeconomic status gradient, which is just the health gradient, basically says the poorer you are, the sicker you are, the wealthier you are, the healthier you are in general. And when you're experiencing housing instability and homelessness, you're pretty much at the bottom rung of that poverty level. And so it just adds to this compounding health issues throughout a lifetime when kids experience homelessness.
I'm glad you touched on some of that, because sometimes we tend to forget that children are not small adults. They're growing, they're developing, they're evolving, and what happens with them, around them, and for them does have a long-term impact in their lives, and it's something that we always need to be mindful. Not minimizing that that's impactful to the adults also,
Sure.
but children, because of their development and growth, have a high risk for a lot of things that adults may not have the same risk for. So I'm glad you talked about that. Now, let's change course a little bit. We talked a lot about some of the things that could be negatively impactful. So tell me a little bit about families that you have worked with. What's the end product? What do you see? What happens on the other side of that relationship?
Sure. So we meet every family really on what we say is their worst day, right?
Okay.
The day they become homeless with children, the day they need to come to a shelter or reach out to an organization that to help them. And so we meet them at a very high stress level and a very low point in their lives. So we get this great opportunity to connect with them, pour into them and their families to build hope and more resiliency for the future, and work with them to get them into housing and then keep them in housing. And so we have a really holistic approach to what we do. And what that looks like is it's not just housing. There's a lot of other things that go into people's lives, but because we're with them so much, we can actually help influence getting help for mental health supports, connecting in with substance abuse treatment. One mom in particular, this is a mom with 2 children struggling with substance abuse issues, came through our program. She got treatment for substance abuse issues, got not just 1 but 2 jobs. And one of the biggest things for her to get employment was her teeth.
Right.
And so we helped connect her with dentistry work. She got her teeth done, which is something that most people kind of take for granted. But there's huge implications on you being able to get a job if you have your teeth, as well as health issues that go along with that. So she got that restored, got her first bank account in our program. This is an adult, and then got into housing, and now her and the boys are stable in their housing and doing well. And this is just one example of we served over 1,000 families this past year, but that's one that kind of walks through all of these issues kind of intersect. And so when you're looking at homelessness, it's not just homelessness. There are intersecting issues that you have to take into account. And really the debate is not do this or that. It's yes to all of those. It's just which order do you do them in. And so we focus on the housing side because we think a stable place provides a foundation to then build on working through these longer term mental health, substance abuse issues, things like that. And there's a lot of families too that, aren't dealing with maybe a substance abuse issue, but are still homeless in our community. And so they may have other issues on that spectrum of childcare or language issues or cognitive development struggles. And so there's a lot of areas that you can intersect and work with.
Wonderful. That's. I'm glad you brought that example because we tend to think about, okay, there's a house, there's a keys, yay. But that's not it. Is how can we help the people in that house or shelter or whatever, wherever we have a place for them, how can we help them pursue the best versions of themselves? What does that look like?
Correct.
Like for this lady, getting a job, but you can't get a job if you can't smile, open your mouth. People with poor dentation have a lot of issues, not only health-related issues, but a lot of confidence issues, anxiety issues. They don't smile, they don't use their mouth, they try not to because they're so self-confident. So things like that we may not think about, and how important that is for someone to be able to confidently go out there and get a job.
Correct.
Right? So I'm glad you brought that example up because sometimes we just think about the shelter piece of it, but we don't think about all the other pieces that go along with that, whether it's health, or jobs, or education, or improve of your overall physical appearance and abilities, whichever way that may be.
Yeah, really, stability is a ladder. If you think of it that way, you climb a ladder to then where you get stable, and it's not just one rung on that ladder. Housing is one rung, but there's nutrition, there's healthcare, there's education, there's jobs, there's living wage. All of those things before you get to what we would call stable. And there's a lot of rungs on that ladder that need to be worked on. And so no one organization can do this, no one, but as a community, this is where we all come together as a whole to create stable families for the future for our communities.
Okay. So it's a complex longitudinal process with many steps, like the ladder, because in our minds that means every day we climb one more.
Yep.
Sometimes we got to come back one, but then we go back up, which is
Well,
fine.
Sometimes you're carrying a baby with you.
Sometimes, right, so, as you're carrying. But you also mentioned that this is not just one person, one organization, one agency. This is needs a comprehensive approach.
Correct.
So what can the average community member do to be helpful?
Great. Yeah, I think we have this impression of homelessness of what we see downtown. And that's like the main picture that people have in their minds of, the single man on the street, probably dealing with mental health or substance abuse issues.
Right.
Homelessness is a much bigger issue in our community than most people realize. Last year, 3,552 homeless kindergarten through 12th grade students in our county. And so that's just that group of kids, plus their little brothers and sisters aren't not at school yet, aren't included in that number. So one of the things to realize is that it is a community-wide issue. It's a county-wide issue here. And as community members, the biggest thing that goes into homelessness is some type of loss of community. There's a loss of relationships, whether that's because you did bad things were done to you, or just circumstance. You never had people around you. And so what everybody who's experiencing homelessness needs is actually relationships with others. They need community to come in and connect and build a support system for them. And so I'll give you a quick example of a family that had come through one of our shelters. This is several years ago now. They got to the shelter right at the beginning of the summer. Mom, dad, 3 boys. Mom's pregnant with the 4th. And they were with us the entire summer. And really arrived at a very low point. Dad was struggling with just the embarrassment of having to come to a shelter. But they got connected to some of our volunteers, which were part of a church community in the valley. That became their network of people. Right. We got them into housing the day before school started. They had contacted 240 places before they found somebody that would rent to them. Then they had the baby the next week, so 4 boys. So that's August, right when school's starting. That November, Dad is having trouble with his eyesight. And so he goes to the optometrist. The optometrist shines a light in his eye and says, "I'm sorry, it's not your eye. You've got a tumor behind your eye." So he's got a brain tumor. So now they've got to go to Seattle for specialist appointments. How do they get there? How do they pay for a hotel? Who's going to watch their kids? All of those things, that community wrapped around them and helped stabilize them through their crisis in that situation. Whereas if they didn't have that, their only place to come back to would be back to the shelter. But because they had community around them, they stayed in housing. They stayed stable, even through the crisis situation. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that a community member can do is meet those in your community who might be struggling, and really build relationships, build friendships. We all need them, but then provide that support for one another that feeds into this. And then if you do have connections with housing, we need more housing. One of the issues is we just don't have enough. Reach out to organizations like ours if you're a landlord, and connect with us. We'd love to put our families into those housing units. We stay with them for 2 years and work with them to stabilize in that place. So we have a 96% housing retention rate. Wow. So we keep families housed and stable, and that's really where the community coming together with all of your different parts and pouring into families in particular, makes a huge difference, not just for today and for the homeless we see today, but the homeless that we will see 10 and 15 years from now, because these kids are the most likely future street homeless. So what we see downtown today and in the past several years is what we didn't do as a community 10 and 15 years ago. So we want to see that change in the future. Homelessness doesn't start downtown. That's where it ends. Mm-hmm. It starts when these children are in elementary school or even newborns. We had 30 newborns this past year born into homelessness in our shelters.
Wow. So I think that's probably a great message for the community, which is, that tip of the iceberg that is highly visible. That's not it.
Correct.
That's kind of like the end point, to use your words. But there is, under all of that, the way I would like to look at it is a lot of opportunity for us to, go and
Correct.
really, really, really prevent that tip of the iceberg from ever happening. But we got to start now, so it doesn't happen 15 years from now. So anything that anyone can do through your neighborhood, your faith-based organization, your community center, people that you know, if you have time, if you can be helpful. Sometimes people just need someone to be kind to them.
Correct.
And kindness has a lot of power. It doesn't really cost very much. Right?
It's very, very true. And we're living in a time where it's not a kind time right now. And so that makes such a huge difference, just being kind to others, saying hello, encouraging others, and then also, there's this phrase of like being a go-getter. Mm-hmm. Be a go-giver. Go support somebody. And connect in with that. Organizations like Family Promise, we love the support from the community, and honestly, we need it right now. Funding is a struggle, always, but especially right now with how many things are changing at a federal level that really impact us at a local level when it comes to those that are the most at risk. And so we need our local community to be the community that wraps around us and it wraps around the families that we serve.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming. And I think the message is these are community members in transition. We're all in transition somewhere. Some happen to be downtown.
Correct.
Right? So some happen to be standing here like we are. But, if you think about a community, any of us can be anywhere at any point in time. You never know the twists and turns that life takes. So let's be kind to each other. Let's be helpful if we can. And I do want to say thank you for all you've done. I mean, some of those numbers in terms of families and children that have been helped are totally amazing. And keep up the good work. And out there, if you have a way to help, please be a giver, a go-giver.
Be a go-giver.
Go-giver. I like the be a go-giver because any one of us can do something, whatever that may be. So with that, we're going to say thank you again to Joe and Family Promise of Spokane and the whole team there. And we will see you next week. Go to our website, check it out. You'll see a lot of great information. So with that, have a great day. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.